Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Sally, the Big Idea Sherpa. I'm so happy to be here. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had an idea that you know God gave you? I mean, you didn't manufacture it, didn't come out of some critical thinking place. Nobody told you about it. You just received it. As I say, it was a divine download. And if you haven't experienced that, you may have had what I call also angel whispers. You're out somewhere and you're just sort of daydreaming, and all of a sudden, boom, an idea pops into your head, and it goes by really fast. If you don't catch it, you forget about it. That's an angel whisper. But instead of moving forward with confidence, you've been quietly afraid you might mess it up because you actually have a very big idea. So you wait and you pray and you think and you keep working your regular job, or you stick to what services or products you know. But the big idea doesn't get to be coming out. Like, you think to yourself, oh, the back of your mind, what if I'm running out of time? What if I miss my window? What if I'm too old to carry this thing all the way through? Well, if that sounds familiar, stay with me, because what I'm about to share is a missing bridge between divine integration and faithful execution. That's the gap. As I said before, I'm Sally Good, and for over 20 or 30 years, I've been working with visionary leaders, all aspects, health aspects, psychology, of course, many, many different aspects, and they've all had really big ideas. And some of them they recognized where they came from, and some of them they thought of them themselves. But the people I'm talking to now are the visionary leaders who have had a divinely inspired big idea. They've they brought that idea into the world without compromising their faith, their values, or the message itself. So I'm co-founder of Good Body, Good Brain, and many people know me as the Big Idea Sherper because I don't take the journey for you, I take the journey with you. I lay down the ropes side by side. I show you where the path is so you won't slip, so you won't misstep, so you won't lose time and money. And I've worked with Christian business leaders, authors, speakers, creatives, spiritual entrepreneurs who don't need more hype. What they need is clarity, alignment, and courage. So my business is not just a business, or what I call a bizatry. I'm not here to help people get rich quick. I work with servant leaders, people who understand that when you serve faithfully, God provides abundance in His own time and His own way. So everything I want to share with you comes from that place. And here's the real issue that no one talks about. Many people with divine ideas aren't lazy, they're not unqualified, they're not lacking faith. They're stuck between obedience and execution. They journal the idea, they pray over it, they talk about it with trusted friends, but they don't know, what arena does this belong in? How can I take this beyond my local circle? And how do I honor God and still operate strategically in the marketplace? So they hesitate. And the longer they hesitate, the harder it becomes for them to actually bring their idea. And the heavier it becomes. Because deep down they feel this truth. God gave me this gift and I haven't shared it in the way I believe He wants me to. And that's the tension. That's not a lack of faith, that's a lack of faithful structure. This is where everything changes. After 2 decades of guiding visionary leaders, I realized something. There were four missing pieces that separate the people who carry ideas from people who actually release them. This proprietary process I call Maud. Just think of Maud from the Golden Girls, and you won't forget this one. How did I come out with this idea? Well, I didn't come up with MAUD. I came up with the processes, which started out with multi arena avenues for divine ideas. Now, let me break that down. Many people try to force their idea into kind of one path. a business, a book, a ministry, a platform, a podcast, a speaking engagement, a keynote, a panelist. But most divine ideas are usually multidimensional. So the first step is discerning, where does this idea belong first? If you choose the wrong arena, even a God given idea feels heavy. The next step in the mod process is attention based strategies. I don't teach hustle. I don't teach manipulation. I don't teach selling your soul to reach your to go grow your reach. We use vetted, ethical business principles that create attraction, not pressure. You don't chase, you position, you serve, and the right people respond. The U in mod is unique sequencing and strategic mapping. This is where most people mess up, and it's not their fault. They do the right things, but they do the right things in the wrong order. So I assess where your idea is now, what stage it's actually in, and what must come first, next, and later. Then we map out the journey and build momentum without burnout. And D is the most important one. And I tried to figure out how to make this first, but I just couldn't come up with it. But D stands for the most important thing, which is divine alignment. And this is the heart of everything. Your values stay front and center. Your higher purpose is never compromised. You are the messenger, the message matters, and we honor both. So I took everything I learned, everything I've guided clients through, and I created a high touch experience built entirely around MAUD, MAUD. It's not a course you disappear into, it's not a generic coaching, it's a guided journey where your divine inspiration is translated into executable, aligned roadmap, one step at a time. And let me show you what that actually looks like. When we work together, we begin with vision, not a business plan, a vision statement. And then we anchor that vision into mission. So every decision stays true to your calling. From there, we discern the right arena, we map the idea's journey, we identify strategic connections, including international pathways when appropriate. We create sequencing that builds confidence and traction. You stop guessing. You stop second guessing God. You start moving faithfully and strategically, and in the end, financially. Before working with me, most clients feel this. They feel heavy. They feel like they don't know where they're going to get this done and how they're going to get it done. They're afraid of messing up. They're torn between obedience and actually responsibility. But afterwards, they feel clear, peaceful, confident, aligned, and bold in their truth. They're not rushed or forced, they're grounded. And here is the divine bottom line. If you wait another year, the real cost isn't money, it's impact. It's the people who don't hear the message, the doors that never open, the obedience delayed just long enough to feel like regret. The world doesn't just lose your idea, it loses what God intended to do through your idea. So, this is for you if you're a Christian business leader, an author, speaker, creative visionary, a spiritual entrepreneur, and you know deep down that this idea is not only just for you. Now, who this isn't for? It's for people who are chasing shortcuts. It's not for the get rich mentalities. It's not those who are willing to move when clarity comes. And it's people who are willing to embrace a beginner's mind. Now, here's my invitation to you. If you're ready to stop carrying this idea alone, and if you're ready to move without betraying your values, if you're ready to honor both the message and the messenger, I invite you to walk with me through the MAUD process, MAUD. And I want you to go to this WordPress site that I'm just now creating. It's not quite finished, but there's enough there that you'll be able to tell where I'm going. And it's called theideasherpa.com. Theideasherpa.com. And while you're in there, just review the processes and let's talk and pray. And once you're inside, let's walk this road together step by step. So you're not too late. You're not too old. You're not behind. You're just waiting for a faithful pathway forward. And this is your moment to stop circling the mountain and start crossing it and start getting to the first elevation with the first platform. So I'm Sally Good, the Big Idea Sherpa, and I was sent here to help you. And I'm excited to hear about your divinely inspired big idea and explore ways to bring it into the world with clarity, confidence, and alignment. So here's the real issue. Most people with God given ideas are doing everything they think they're supposed to do. They're praying, they're listening, they're seeking wisdom, and they're also making a few critical mistakes. None of them mean that they lack faith. First of all, they're working with secular coaches who don't understand the importance of being faithful to God and the calling. These coaches may be smart, they may know systems, but they don't know discernment, obedience, or the weight of stewarding a divine idea. So you end up feeling misunderstood or pressured to compromise in some way or quietly disconnected from the whole process. Secondly, many people are praying and waiting, but they're not getting help with implementation. Now, prayer is essential, but prayer without structure often turns into delay. God gives the vision. He also expects movement, partnership, and wise counseling. And third, some people actually have clarity and they know what the idea is, but what they don't have is experience with systems, strategy, or support. So the idea just sits there. Not because it's wrong, it's because there's no faithful framework to hold it. Fourth, they're waiting for perfect action, perfect clarity, perfect timing, perfect confidence, and perfection quietly becomes procrastination disguised as wisdom. And finally, they're worried about being criticized by other believers, by the marketplace, by their families, by the people who give them the side eye and go like, "Oh, really?" Criticized for being too faith-based or not faith-based enough. So they stay small and they stay safe and they stay silent. Here's what I want you to hear. You're not doing this wrong because you lack faith. You're stuck because you've never been given a faithful execution pathway. And this is what I'm here to fix. So let's start with my first pillar of my proprietary process, the M in MAUD, the multi arena avenues. This is where most people get stuck, and it's not their fault. Most coaches tell you to pick one lane, stay there, force everything in it, don't move on this, keep going here, do this over and over, rinse and repeat. A course, a business, a book, a platform, but divine ideas are rarely one dimensional. They're designed to travel. What I help you do is discern where your idea is meant to live and how it's meant to move through multiple arenas in the right order and the right time. It could be a guest on a podcast. That's borrowed authority. For some ideas, the first arena isn't selling, it's speaking into conversations that already exist. Podcasts allow you to do a couple of things. You share the heart of your message without pressure, you reach global audiences quickly, and you build credibility through borrowed trust. Your goal is not to go viral, it's to test the resonance and refine the idea. And then there's public speaking embodied authority. Now, some ideas are meant to be heard, not just read. Public speaking allows your message to be embodied, not just explained. You create instant trust and connection. You open doors to invitations, partnerships, and influence. We don't just ask, can you speak? We ask, where does your voice belong first? And then there's selling from the stage, the invitation, not pressure. Now, this is where many faith led leaders feel uncomfortable, and I can understand why. Selling from the stage doesn't mean manipulation, it means offering a next step to people already impacted by your message. When done with integrity, the message leads, service follows, and abundance becomes a byproduct, not the goal. You don't sell yourself, you steward the invitation. So there's other arenas like strategic expansion. Depending on the idea, the other arenas might include authorship, thought leadership, strategic partnerships, joint venture partners, international audiences, media appearances, organizational or ministry settings. The key is we don't ask, what can we monetize fastest? We ask, where is this idea meant to land first? When the first arena is right, everything else accelerates. And why does this matter? Because when you place a divine idea in the wrong arena, it feels heavy. When you place it in the right one, it gains momentum. Your idea doesn't need to be louder, it needs to be placed strategically. You know, the scriptures tell us something really powerful. Call to me, and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you do not know. Hey, a lot of big idea people don't know what they don't know. And that quote comes from Jeremiah 33:3. Now, 33:3 has a special meaning from me, and that's a whole nother story about how 33:33s just pop up every day. So you'll have to DM me about that to tell that story. So God doesn't give ideas, He invites conversation. He wants to be in a relationship with you. And here are where so many people get stuck. They hear the call, they sense the idea, they actually feel the stirring, and then fear starts to whisper, what if I mess this up? And instead of calling and moving forward, they wait and wait and wait. The Bible never tells us that God gives us the entire map up front. In fact, it says, a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Proverbs 16:9. When Abraham took his son up that mountain with a knife, determined to follow God's instructions and sacrifice his own son, he didn't know how it was going to end. When those disciples sat in the inner room, and when they were taking the bread and drinking the wine, they did not understand what Jesus was saying, and they didn't understand what it meant until way later. When Noah was building the ark, and it never rained before, and all of his neighbors thought he was crazy, he didn't really know where he was going to end up, but he took the journey anyway. So planning isn't the problem, and faith isn't the problem. The problem is trying to walk this out alone without structure, support, or discernment in the right order. So God directs the steps, but we still have to take them. We're his arms, legs, eyes, mouth, and brain down here. So the mod, the D stands for the most important thing, and I'd like to have it first, but it didn't work out that way. Mod just came into being. And this is what the divine alignment really is in the heart of everything that I do or propose. Because God gives you an idea, it comes with an intention. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. Your big idea is not random. Your timing is not accidental, and your life experience is not a mistake. The question isn't whether God has a plan. The question is, do you have a faithful pathway to walk it out into the world? One of the greatest misconceptions that faith led leaders believe is that structure somehow limits God. But the scripture says the opposite. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established. Proverbs 16:3. Notice what that says. Not avoid planning, not wait forever. So commit the work and then allow God to establish it. That's what MAUD, MAUD, is designed to do, to help you commit the work without compromising the call. When your idea moves into podcasts, onto stages, into rooms you've never imagined, it's not self promotion, it's stewardship. It's saying, God, I trust you enough to let this travel. Now, you don't need perfect clarity to move forward. You need alignment, sequencing, and faithful support. God already knows the plan. He's just inviting you to walk it out wisely, and you don't have to do this alone. Now, let's talk about this. Because you wait another year, the risk isn't that you lose momentum, it's that the idea loses you. When divine ideas aren't acted on, one or two things usually happens. Either the momentum starts to fade, or someone else brings something strikingly similar into the world. Have you ever noticed when people have a really great idea and they start talking about it, but they don't do anything about it? Somewhere across, even across another country, I've seen this happen. Somebody has a similar idea and they act on it and they bring it into the world. And this person over here says, I had that idea. What happened? I should have acted on it. It's not because somebody stole it, it's because they were willing to move. And here's the deeper truth we don't talk about enough: the real cost of delay isn't money, is that God isn't being glorified in the way he intended, and others aren't being blessed by the truth your idea carries. Because this idea was never meant just for you, it was meant to serve, to heal, to illuminate, to bring something true into the world that doesn't exist without your obedience. Scripture is very clear about this. Jesus tells a story of the servants who was each given a talents. Resources entrusted them with instruction to let them grow. Now, two of them invested with what they were given. They took responsibility. They acted with courage. But one servant, out of fear, buried his talent, not because he was rebellious, it's because he was afraid of losing it. And when the master returned, the master was not pleased because he had not done anything with his talent like he was instructed. And his talent was taken away from him and given to the one who had been the most faithful to obey God. The story isn't about punishment, it's about stewardship. God gives gifts to be protected in the ground. He doesn't do that. He says, take the gifts and bring them out into the world. He gives them to be released, multiplied, and shared. So the question isn't, what if I mess this up? The real question is, what if the very thing that keeps this gift from what God intended is me being delayed? Is my delayed obedience? It still has consequences, even when my heart is sincere. So take a breath, and if this resonates with you, think about this and take a chance, take a risk, a little small one, because I'm kind of fun to talk to. Sign up for the VIP and get a gift from me, which is the 45-minute consulting. And we'll take your big idea, we'll add on the 15-minute from the regular population, and we'll have a whole hour together, and we'll look at your divine idea. And does your divine idea, does it have wings? Can it fly? How far can it go? What would be some ways we would get it to do what you want it to do? To have a faithful roadmap where you could bring it out into the world. And then you can start thinking more strategically and more concretely. And you can just think about how far this idea could flow and how many people it could serve and how much you would be blessed by it and how much you could bless other people by it. So please join me and take a chance and become part of something really, really important. And I'm going to show you this one last banner here that we talked about. The real cost of delay isn't money, is that God is not being glorified in the way he intended. Because we can go through Maud and we can have different things that will come up, multi arenas, attraction based strategies, unique sequencing, and divine alignment. So, thank you so much for listening, and thank you. And I'm so pleased to be here with you. And don't forget, let's talk about that divine idea.